LaMarr's coming out. So we good? All right, cool. Introducing Mr. Phil LaMarr.
Why y'all cheering for me when he looked like that?
I mean, I'm not trying to upstage you or anything, you know. Come on. So how you doing today, sir?
Good, how you?
Doing good, you know. How's your BlerDCon experience?
I'm surprised you don't smell.
Nah. I can't.
You know, cosplaying in this heat, that is a challenge.
I mean, I should be a spokesperson for Right Guard at this point. I mean, you know. I guess my very first question, just off rip, just run with me on this. So did they grab you from craft service table for your little appearance in Spider-Man 2? Cameo on the train and stuff? Because that was like the most random moment of you just being in a movie like, is that Phil LaMarr? Okay. So how did that happen? Because that was just kind of like, all right.
Grab you from the craft service table.
I don't know. That's my head. That is my head.
When I was
canon.
serving fruit?
Nah. You were getting food.
No.
Maybe.
Ain't nobody ever eat what I made.
No, but how did that happen?
No. I had auditioned for the movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's a scene, there's a dude in the elevator with Peter Parker in his costume. It's like, hey, nice costume. And Hal Sparks got that part. But then later, my agent got a call and they said, hey, would Phil be interested in being in this other scene? And we said, well, can we see the scene? Can you send us the scene? It's like, no. We can't tell you nothing and we can't show you nothing. So I was like, well, agent, ask him, make sure that I'm actually going to be on set directed by Sam Raimi, not just like in the background or something. It's like, no, you can be with Sam Raimi. It's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, well, I'm a big comic book nerd, so I'll be in a Spider-Man movie any way I can. Whether I got a line or not. And got there and wound up realizing, well, Sam explained it. You know, he said, yeah, we got this big action train scene. We got like 50, background extras. But I feel like this fight between Spider-Man and Dr. Ock is got a lot of emotion. It's really important about the movie. So he said, I hired 8 actors to spread out among the extras so I can have people to, cut to for either lines or just, emotional expressions and responses to things. Like, oh, wow, I ain't never heard of that. And so, yeah, we looked like extras, but we were there as actors.
Oh, cool. Shout out to you with the UPS shirt on. Former worker years ago, many years ago. So I appreciate it. You UPS guy, everything. Man.
Well, actually, it's funny. Yeah, I'm wearing this UPS shirt, which is the original costume when I had created the character on stage. But then, once we moved it onto TV, Fox said, no, you can't use the actual name of that company. We'll make it into UBS. All right, we don't want to give nobody a free commercial.
Nah, we definitely don't. A while back, I talked to Kari Payton. I was remarking to him about like Kari Payton, and we were talking about like how on Young Justice, he played 2 characters that were talking to each other. So for you, is that still a surreal thing to do? Because I know you were Virgil and Green Lantern, and they both had interactions at some point in the shows. Like how did you go about that whole process of just being able to talk and still keep that same tempo of those characters, individual characters?
Well, I mean, at first it seemed like a tough, gig, because back in the old days, we used to record all of our cartoon scenes in groups. So you were doing a scene with all the other actors. And when you on stage, you ain't never playing Hamlet and his daddy. So having to talk to yourself seemed, although I wasn't as scared by it, because by the time we did Static, I had already been doing Futurama. and I had been in the room watching Billy West be three people talking to each other. And I was like, oh, damn. This feels like doing a pickup basketball game with Michael Jordan. It sets your bar this high. Like, am I ever going to be able to do that? But then when they, it's like, okay, well, there's this episode where Static meets Jon Stewart. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll go high and low.
Seamless. For you, like, do you enjoy doing more like live action roles in comparison to animation, or is it just all kind of equal in your eyes?
Well, it's not about the medium, or working on mic versus on camera. What it's about is the quality of the people you work for and with. Like working with Gendy Tartakovsky on Samurai Jack. I mean, that is closer to working with Quentin Tarantino in Pulp Fiction than it is doing some crappy little PBS cartoon. Because that's the thing, I have been lucky to work with a big handful of amazing creators, artists, just getting in your career once to be able to work with Matt Groening or Bruce Timm or Gendy Tartakovsky or Dave Filoni or Seth MacFarlane. Any one of those would make you feel like, woo, I made it. But to be able to have more than one, that is a blessing. And it's the reason I'm here, because those people create amazing shows that touch us all, and we remember them from decades later. Like, to me, Static Shock, like, did to Saturday morning cartoons what Stan Lee's Marvel did to comic books in the 60s. It brought a realistic type of feel to this fantasy world that our parents would all blank at us when they saw us looking into.
You mentioned Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction, that whole, obviously with you interacting with Samuel Jackson, like, how was that experience like, especially with your character, this character, and just the dynamics of everything that was going on?
Well, being on set with Sam was like being in a booth with Billy West. It sets a bar so high, because here was this nice dude who 5 minutes ago was standing out off set, and he was talking about daughter or golf. Was just a nice little guy. But then when we walk on set, that guy Sam I was just talking to is gone. And when I'm looking at Jules, I'm looking in somebody else's eyes. I'm like, holy shit. He just transformed himself like that. And I'm like, I just took a master acting class. It's going to take me years, but now I know you got to learn to do that. He didn't have to go, I am going to say my character's name over and over to transform. No, he just flipped. And all of a sudden, I was actually scared of that dude.
What was your first reaction when you kind of read the script and saw that your character just accidentally get shot in the face? Like, was there kind of, because it's the most accidental scene ever. Like, did he really shoot? Maybe it was an accident. I don't know. Like, what was your first reaction just reading through that?
Well, that script was amazing. It's incredible to be reading a script and feel like you memorizing it as you read it. But I knew, okay, this thing is so good, it should be printed in gold. And that's how a guy with only one indie film in his credits was able to get all those big stars back in the 90s for just $8 million. Because everybody read that script and went, "Woo, yeah. Yeah, no, I'll take a pay cut for this." But my scene, I remember thinking, oh, he's got the guys in the car doing that little, chit chat. This is like, that those guys at dinner talking about Madonna and Reservoir Dogs. But Quentin did a parody of one of his chat scenes. It's like, yeah, we're just talking about, oh, you remember see that show? Yo, Cops, yeah. What? Oh man, what'd you do? Then all of a sudden, the chit chat stops because somebody's bleeding.
Were you like the reaction to getting that last season of Samurai Jack? I know you were probably like ecstatic that you could finally finish the story. So like when you read through everything for that last season, what was the sort of feeling for you?
Well, one, I was just happy to be able to come back to playing the samurai because Cartoon Network announced the show was coming back before they ever told me.
Okay, so they never told you at all. There was no.
No, I heard about it in the news. And 6 months before that, they had done a reboot of Powerpuff Girls where they recast all the Powerpuffs. So I was like, uh-oh. But Gendy said, no. You're the samurai. And, he had been, we knew we had to get to the completion of the mission. Because, hey, when something's in your theme song, you got to do it. On Friends, they say, we'll be there for each other. They're always there for each other every episode. And our theme song said, go to get back. So we had to get back. And he did an amazing job. Even though it was 13 years later, he moved us forward. What I thought the show would have evolved into had it kept going for those 13 years. Like, wow, yeah, we're now, this noble samurai is in trauma because he has been fighting a war for 50 years and hasn't won. But we're still going to figure out a way to win.
I mean, seeing all the callbacks that last season was kind of great because seeing your characters, like all the characters that he interact with, it was great seeing that. I mean, for you, like were you able to kind of like, I know you say you're not in the same room with some of the voice actors, but was it kind of surreal seeing like those characters and those people that voiced those characters in previous seasons come back in some way, shape, or form and interact with your character?
Well, no, because, obviously in the voiceover world, you work with a lot of the same people. So it wasn't like I hadn't seen, John DiMaggio. We were still doing Futurama.
Yeah, that too.
But it was interesting to see all the new characters because then I was watching great old friends do amazing new stuff. Like Tom Kenny playing that villainous, assassin. I was like, wow. And what Tara Strong did as Ashi. I was like, damn, girl, I've known you for 20 years, and I ain't ever seen you do this.
Are we Q&A? All right, cool. Yeah, we take it to the audience. Yeah. Spice it up a little bit,
Yeah, we got a little time left.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, we ain't on CP time today. Lights in our eyes, we can't see.
Howdy.
Hey.
I've always wondered this. You have a really long filmography, right? Has there ever been a project that you forgot you were involved in?
At my age, yeah, there's a bunch. But that's usually the not great ones.
Gotcha.
I got a little bit of a two-parter. One, How does it feel to to not only follow in the footsteps of Scatman Carruthers and voice one of the coolest cars ever made in jazz, and two, what was it like working on Transformers Animated?
Um, well, it's interesting because I hadn't been deep into the Transformer stuff, so I had to do a lot of research to catch up because there was so many, approaches to the Transformers world, and I was like, "Whoa, wait, which one are we doing? Which one?" But the trickiest thing was, wait, you got me doing jazz? So I'm gonna sound no, don't make him sound like Scatman Crothers. Really? Okay. So I made him sound like Quincy Jones instead.
Hi, how you doing? Have you ever had like a fan interaction with a case of mistaken identity? Like somebody came up to you and was like, "Oh, you were great as Cyborg in Teen Titans."
Well, that better never happen at BlerDCon. Actually, Orlando Jones told me somebody said, "Oh, I loved you as the UPS guy." I was like,
It's two different black guys.
well, and apparently it's like you can only see color, not 6 inches of height.
You're one of my favorite voice actors ever. I mean, you've played some of my favorite characters, especially John. I mean, Green Lantern is the bomb, man. And I understand you were also Lex Luthor.
No.
I'm just kidding. He just asked that question. I'm just playing with you. I'm just playing with you.
This interview is over.
This is BlerDCon. Oh my God, what did I do?
See, that don't make you seem racist, just dumb. Because we don't know if you confusing me with Giancarlo Esposito or Michael Rosenbaum. Either way, I got hair.
I was just curious. One of my other favorites was Kevin Conroy. I was wondering if how essentially his loss, if that had any particular effect on you.
Yeah. Well, the loss of Kevin hit me super, super hard, but on double levels. One, I lost a friend, but also I'm a big Batman fan. And, he was the coolest Batman of our lifetime. Like, to me, that was like the dark, powerful human in those 1938 comic books, is the way he made it sound. But yeah, to lose somebody who embodies a character you feel is so much a huge part of your life, but also to lose a friend who you had a great dinner with sometimes, that hurts even more.
Feel you. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Welcome.
Nice shirt.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you've got a picture of me in Florida when I had a shirt on like this. I've been a fan of yours since the Mr. T cartoon era. Yep, I remember that. And
Whoa, you must be older than you look.
I do my best. I do my best.
I feel like Mr. T don't even remember that. What do you mean, man? I had cereal. I didn't have no cartoon.
Fighting crime and gymnastics. I definitely remember. But I just was wondering, I know with you doing so many different cartoons over the years, like I think one of my favorite characters was Dracula from Billy and Manny. And I'm just like, what is the inspiration for Dracula?
What's that?
What is the inspiration for that character for you?
Well, I've been working with that creator for a while. He was great, Adam. And we had done a show called Evil Con Carne, which
I love that show.
Which was, another Michael Jordan pickup game, because I got to work alongside Frank Welker, who is one of the most incredible, legendary voice artists in the world. And I was like, wow. And Frank would just be doing bare sounds, not actual lines. But he was so good, he could do a monologue with bare sounds. And you would understand every word and every thought. Like, damn. But then, we got, because it was grim and evil, but then they canceled the evil half. But thankfully, they kept going with Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, because that show was great. I mean, Great Lyle and Richard Horvitz are incredible. And so they brought me in to do a character, and he showed me his drawing. Yeah, Grim Reaper is going to be friends with Dracula. And I saw the thing, I'm like, whoa, you made your Dracula look like Blackula? Well, hey, Adam, why don't I give him a 70s sounding voice? Yeah, dummy. What you think? Dracula don't suck. Scrape and lick. And he went with it.
It was fantastic.
Even though I'm sure he figured most of the kids watching Cartoon Network back then would not get a Sanford and Son reference.
I think that's what made it so great, because it wasn't just geared toward kids. Your character was definitely like a family character as a whole. Thank you.
And they began to write the character into that thing. I mean, that whole thing where he would like, look at that, line up, kids. Ugly, ugly, dummy, dummy, ugly. I mean, that's like if Red Fox was writing the show.
Thank you.
What's going on, Phil? So, like, for me, growing up, like, Static Shock was, like, a super big deal. Because, like, before that, we didn't really see, like, black superheroes, like, in the public eye. So, like, my question just revolves around, like, what was, like, for you, like, what was the cultural impact of, like, doing Virgil and just, like, inspiring, like, a whole new generation of, like, black kids to, like, believe in themselves and just, like, believe in, like, nerd culture and things like that?
Well, I mean, back then, diversity and representation wasn't nobody's buzzwords, but we knew the significance of, this is going to be the first show ever with a black teenage superhero lead character. And it's like, no, that matters. And also, I don't know if we understood the significance of bringing the milestone comics stuff, which embodied diversity and representation in so many ways, into the television world, which back then was not, not to do another Friends reference. But, the fact that that was a Saturday morning cartoon changed things. And also, they did great storytelling, I mean, nowadays, anybody who grew up watching it, your kids could watch it and still enjoy it, because it's not just old stuff, but it feels like, yeah, that's what it might be like at high school if I had superpowers.
Yeah.
That's how I would think. That's how I would feel.
Yeah,
And
like,
somebody would try to punch me.
One of my favorite episodes was like the episode where like Virgil met Richie's dad for the first time. Like that episode was so heavy because it's like they don't really talk about like discrimination and like racism on like TV. So like that episode had like a special impact too.
Right. And the fact that we were able to do that on a Saturday morning cartoon, I mean, that's the level of quality, which is why this show was able to win a Humanitas Award.
Thank you.
Hey, Phil. So you've played a lot of iconic roles throughout the years, including your time at Mad TV. So what was your favorite character to embody, and what was the most challenging one?
Mad?
throughout your career?
Well, I don't have any one favorite just because I've been lucky enough, like I said before, working with incredible storytellers and, you know, getting to play
John Stewart, Green Lantern of Sector 2814.
and the first black kid superhero
Yep.
and getting to play a Jedi when I grew up, you know, watching the Star Wars world and, you know, that groundbreaking samurai, you know, in that series. All of those are favorites. I mean, the sketch stuff, I don't know. Maybe it was mostly just the impressions.
Oh, crazy? Like wacko jacko?
That's awesome. You definitely inspired an entire generation. So I appreciate you and thank you for everything that you've ever done.
Although, will I someday soon get canceled for doing ethnically inappropriate impressions on Mad TV? Is somebody going to attack me on X for doing whiteface?
You'd be fine. I think we reached that bar where it's like, it's Phil. He's good. He's good. We're good. We're golden.
Well, no, I mean, I did Billy Crystal, and that's okay. He did Sammy Davis Jr.
How you doing, Mr. LaMarr? My question is, you brought to life all these different characters over your career, and you worked with some great other voice actors. What is one character that you would have wanted to bring to life with your voice that maybe you didn't do?
No, there's nothing like that. Because anything you are watching or working alongside, if the role is great, you know, either as written or as performed, you're just going to enjoy it. And never think about, oh, that's so good. Let me get that check. You know, and if something's not as good, you don't think about, I could do that better. That's not a good way to enjoy nothing.
Thank you.
How's it going? I'm Tim from Alexandria, and we've met a couple times at AwesomeCon. And I have a two-part question. First, I want to say thank you for like Samurai Jack and your character Hermes on Futurama and Ollie Williams
thank you for being in line.
and Ollie Williams on Family Guy. And so my question is, what is it like working with Matt Groening and Seth MacFarlane? And how did you come up with the voices for Hermes and Ollie Williams?
Well, like I said, working with great, nice, genius creators like those guys and some of the others I've worked with is a blessing. That is something you would do for free. To get paid to be able to say Matt Groening and Seth MacFarlane's words is a pleasure. Yeah, Matt was great. It's funny because he was hugely famous by the time we went to audition for Futurama, you know, but it wasn't intimidating because he is a warm, friendly, sweet person. You know, he's not somebody who you feel like is just looking at you like, I'm a billionaire. Look away. No, he is open. And actually, originally, Hermes was not Hermes. Hermes was just the Planet Express certified bureaucrat named Dexter. And after about 3 episodes, I think Matt went to the writers and said, I don't know, this isn't feeling like that character's really working well. You know, maybe there's a way we can make him more interesting. Like, wouldn't it be fun if this like boring, you know, nerdy bureaucrat was coming from a different angle? Let's make him Jamaican. Because Jamaican people are cool, but this guy is not. So it'll give us some conflict. That'll be funny. And he, you know, after one session, he walked up to me and said, "Hey, Phil, you think you could do a Jamaican accent?" I'm like, "Yeah." Thank goodness I said that. Because I could have been replaced if I couldn't. But haven't gotten replaced, even though we have come back from the dead 4 times. And working with Seth was lucky for a bunch of us. Actually, that's weird that you brought both of those up because they both are connected to Mad TV. The casting person who cast us on Mad TV was also casting Futurama, which is why me and Dave Herman have been in it from the beginning. Actually, initially, Nicole Sullivan from Mad TV was also on it. But we also got connected to Seth because the Fox executive who was in charge of Mad TV came up to us and said, "Hey, guys, I'm bringing this little fun young guy who does cartoons into Fox Primetime, and could you do me a favor and come voice a 15-minute pilot presentation for him?" She asked me and Alex Borstein. So that favor, you know, got Alex a couple of Emmys.
Did you get any blowback for Hermes being with the Jamaican accent? Because I know a lot of people in that culture really kind of feel some way when people kind of mess up the dialect and such. So did you get any blowback from that, or was it just kind of like, eh?
No. I mean, I was doing an authentic accent. Although every once in a while, I would get a note in the booth. Go, Phil, can you redo that line a little clearer? We need to make sure people understand the joke. Oh, okay, so I got to make things sound a little better to you. Yeah, I need to hear to you.
We're gonna stop the line. So if you're not in line, please stay in your seat. We have 12 minutes left.
Hi, Mr. LaMarr. So quick question for you. So if a live action Static Shock movie does take place, who do you think would take up as Virgil in that movie? And if possible, how would you like to be in the movie as well, or like have your touch on it? Seeing as Static is kind of like I would say one of your personal characters, kind of like, I don't know.
Oh, well, hey, I'll be on the train in that one. But no, as to who gets cast as Virgil, it depends on how they tell the story. Like, is it gonna be like super strong action, or is it gonna be a real, more personal story of him? Is it gonna be like more teenage, or are they just gonna do a electrical version of Black Panther? We don't know. But how that script gets written is going to depend on who can play it right. And don't none of us know yet.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. A lot of people think, hey, I should play that. It's like, dude, you ain't getting cast just for your hair.
All right. Hello, sir. Nice to meet you. Have a couple Static Shock questions for you. The first one, hypothetically, say, I forget what Justice League episode, but the one that got thrown into the future and we see the future version of Static, would you sign up if they were willing to make a series focus on that version of Virgil? And then the second one would be when the original Static Shock series, because it was prominent because it touched on like mental health and other things, homelessness, before that became mainstream. Did you ever think, were you ever hesitant as far as how for a kid's show we're gonna, stick that landing? Or were you always on board because you knew the foundation of Milestone Comics as it was?
execs if you repeat that again. 'Cause I don't want to mess that. I do not want to mess this up.
Yeah. So the first question is like the future version of Virgil. If there was to be like a series focused on the future version, would you sign up to do that?
Yeah, that's the only way I could play Static on camera.
Nice.
But I'm pretty sure it would be much better for us to see that teenage hero, because those stories were so great. I mean, in the comics and, well, in the series, they had him have loss in his past. You know, he lost his mama, you know? So, I mean, no, that would be the sequel movie.
Yeah. Or even an animated series even.
Oh, animated series, right? Yeah, who knows?
And then the second part
So
was...
you asking questions for WB execs.
No. My bad. Okay, good. All right.
Oh, she waved you off.
We gotta keep the party going. We gotta keep going.
How's it going, Phil? My question is, due to your extensive, filmography, who would you say are your top 3 voice actors that you enjoyed working with?
Well, there's way more than 3.
Okay, top 5.
You know, I mean, that's the amazing thing is, you know, on shows like Futurama, Foster's, Weekenders, Samurai Jack. I've gotten to work with so many amazing people. And the thing is, usually, if you're working on a series, you get to work with a lot of great people. Sometimes they're just guesting on it. Like, I remember, a couple years ago, when Cheryl Lee Ralph and, what was her name, from Hack, both won Emmys, I realized, oh, wow, I worked with both those amazing women. They were both guests on Static Shock.
That show low-key had like a lot of like celeb talent on there. Like even like you said, to your point, even the small roles, it's like you said, Cheryl Lee Ralph was on there. It's like, oh, I kind of forgot that she was on it. And yeah.
Well, I mean, they cast amazing people. I mean, they cast Carl Lumley as Africa's superhero Anansi. Perfect, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Phil, Mr. LaMarr. I got a picture with you and an autograph with you earlier, and I talked to you, and I forgot to ask you the question I ask all black people in the industry. You had mentioned that Static Shock got 4 years of being #1. And like I'm always obsessed with the fact that there's not enough black cartoons in existence, and I just want to know the perspective from the inside of why that's happening. Like, is it a conspiracy, or is it like what's happening that they're not making a bunch of black cartoons, even though they're always succeeding when they happen?
Well, there's a lot more now than there used to be, even though people are shitting on some of them. Are you all mad about good times? That's us. This time. The on-camera one, we wasn't writing it. No, I mean, back in the old days, 2000s or whatever, it was very rare to have a lead animated character who was a person of color. These days, there's more, which is why there are more of us voice actors who are people of color, because now we can actually make a living. Before, there weren't enough roles they wouldn't bring us in for. But like I said yesterday, part of the problem, again, back in those old days, they didn't consider cartoons art. They just cared about them selling toys. And because the toy company had turned down the Static Shock character as an action figure, so there was no merch. And that's why the show only lasted 4 seasons. Because there's people who didn't feel like it was making them enough money, like the Little Ponies was. Thank you, man.
Hi. I have a question. In over the past decade, there has been like a change in terms of, I guess, importance of inclusion and diversity in voice acting. Like, even on Family Guy, for example, there was this wave of like the person who was voicing, I believe, Cleveland, who was a white person previously, was asked to step down and be replaced by a black person. My question is, what was your perspective when all of that change was going on? Because a lot of shows had to like change their, casting and things like that to make sure to replace potentially white actors that were voicing black characters with black people, things like that. As someone who has voiced a number of characters from various ranges of races, how important, in your opinion, is it that racial representation is there in voice acting? And is it really that deep in terms of making sure that every single black character is voiced by a black person, or can it be more diverse than that?
Well, it's not about, it is definitely about diversity, representation, equity, because the thing is, like I said, back in the old days, there weren't enough characters of color. So if that's the only sound you could make, you wouldn't make a living. Because whenever they bring you in, they also throw you a couple of extra, just little characters in the back. Oh, there's a guy in the restaurant here, Phil, do that voice. And it wasn't about whether you looked like the character. The ethnic authenticity was more about the leads than the secondary characters. But back in those days, it never occurred to, producers and stuff to think about representation. They had some character that was, drawn in color, but it was just the 15th character in that episode. Just have one of the guys who's already, in the episode do it. But now people understand, no, opening that up because now there is way more diversity than there used to be. Before, it would have been just the one little Indian guy in the convenience store or whatever. But now, it's like, no, it does matter. So there are more characters of more ethnicities, and now they realize, oh, if we bring people in, we are helping. That's more equity. That is spreading, accessibility and helping people's careers. To me, the mindset that they were in the old days was the similar mindset to back in the super, super, super old days in theater when they wouldn't let women play female characters. They weren't doing that against women. It's just like, no, we don't want to have somebody's daughter or wife at a theater. Yeah, but then after a while they realized, oh no, women can be artists too. Ooh, okay, you're gonna play Hamlet's mother then. But it took them a generation to figure that shit out. And, well, our country's gotten a little better.
That's our time, but if we can get these two done in 2 minutes, we can do it.
I just finished binging Justice League. And I got to say, there's one thing that's been gnawing at me for years, and hopefully you can answer that. There was that love triangle with that very controversial interracial relationship you had with Shira. Oh my God. And also there was Vixen. Oh my God. And I was just wondering, which was that a difficult decision for you? Which way were you leaning in that one?
It's an episode of The Bachelor at this point.
Yeah, well, see, you sound like my mama. You don't understand how shit works. Actors don't write the scenes. No, but to me, you know, they took John and Shaira's relationship into an ending because secretly she was part of an invasion. So, oops, you got to break up. But I think because they had established, well, we've already shown that John is someone who is willing to be in a relationship with someone in the league. So they brought him in another way. But then they brought in Shaira again. Like, uh-oh. But as we all know from the future episode, he's going to find his way back.
So you voiced many characters. So say if all these characters came to life, which one would you want to hang out with? And which one would you not want to hang out with?
Ooh, that's tough, because I would want to hang out with the samurai, but that would mean I would have to go back to the past. And when he is away from the evil future, he would not be speaking English. So I don't know how we would talk.
All right, I'm gonna keep it quick. So, two roles I noticed you did, because I did a whole research of all the roles you did, was Sig from Jack and Daxter and Kotal Khan. I wanted to know the first question, how was it when you were doing the Jack and Daxter series? Did you have any fun with it? And for Kotal, he's made quite a few choices throughout the story and went through quite a few things. Did you ever kind of understood hey, it is what it is, it's what the writers want? Or did you go, personally, I wouldn't allow that level of disrespect?
Well, no. Jack and Daxter was just fun, because Sig was like, come on, he was just a good, funny character, with power. But Kotal Khan actually sort of blew my mind because I'd played Mortal Kombat, but I never really thought of it in terms of characters. It was mostly just, colors. Sub-Zero this, Sub-Zero that. It didn't really matter about their personalities. But it was wild to see that the people behind the game did think about the characters' personalities. It was like, oh, okay, wow, we actually have these scenes that we talk to each other. Or
More than grunts.
he had a romance. Yeah, it wasn't just death screams.
Yeah.
Thank you. Speaking of romance, Devore or Jade?
The what?
Devore or Jade?
It was Jade.
Thank you.
Real quick question. How did you not break character doing Rick James and Mad TV?
Get
that
off
whole
the stage.
sketch with you and Aries Spears. How did you keep your composure? Because that whole sketch was funny. The whole origins of party all the time and stuff. It was just how did you do that?
Well, no, I ain't Jimmy Fallon, so I don't laugh during my sketches.
Yeah. I'm just saying. Was there still because you and Aries' dynamic was just hilarious.
Well, plus also, our show wasn't live; it was taped. If you cracked up, they go cut, reshoot. But no, I thought that scene was funny. Aries always did the best Eddie Murphy, but having him do his musical Eddie was hilarious.
All right, folks, that is it. You got any last thoughts for everybody, here before we walk out? Any final thoughts, anything before we roll out? Anything for the audience?
Well, thank you all for being here and sitting through all these big, long answers.
I hope that didn't put a shock to your system.
All right, folks, we are out of here. Peace.
Yes. We've got to get back. Back to the outside.